Hello, everybody. I hope you're doing well today. I'm Bob226, aka Josiah, and today we are going to do a quick rehash of what happened on yesterday's slate, and then we'll dig a little bit deeper into today's slate to take down some tournaments in an interesting two-gamer. So yesterday was a gigantic slate, and it was absolute insanity. Definitely was not my best day. But I know that we definitely had some people who had a lot of success, which was nice to see as well. This was the winning lineup for the 100K tournament yesterday. I think there were definitely some surprises in here, and I think for me yesterday there were definitely some learning opportunities that I want to take away from it, and we'll definitely dig into it a little bit here. Kyle Lowry wasn't a surprise. You can see the ownership. Most of us were on Kyle Lowry. DeJounte Murray was interesting. Those of you who watched the pre-lock show yesterday, which is a show that starts at 5:30 p.m. Eastern time, it's only for VIP members. For DFS Army. If you're interested, the DFS Army link is below. And feel free to use the Bob promo code for a 10% discount. But DeJounte Murray was someone that we talked about on that show. And I was between, and I said on the show, I was like, I'm between him, Trae Young, and DeJounte Murray. I chose Trae Young for pure usage. I was like, Trae Young has been dominating the usage on this team. You guys can still play DeJounte Murray as a tournament play. And that is exactly the way it went. Was DeJounte Murray was the tournament play. He dominated that game. Trae Young did have some injury. He hurt his eye. He got rocked, actually. And so there was definitely more behind it. But DeJounte Murray definitely had a really nice day. Then we see OJ Anunoby, who also made sense once Fred VanVleet went down. We always say you can play the starters in that spot, and they all did well. Chris Boucher was a bit of a surprise to a lot of people. The Raptors, they get creative with that starting lineup at times, and we see guys like Chris Boucher and Precious Achiuwa have those surprise ceiling performances. So we can understand how that happened. Isaiah Hartenstein, he didn't really crush, but he did well. He's a nice lineup filler for you. It wasn't on him, but we understand how he got there. He was just kind of like that last fill and play at cheap. He was the value, him and Chris Boucher. It wasn't all the other chalky value. It was Chris Boucher and Isaiah Hartenstein. Now, the interesting thing is, on the pre-lock show as well, I think the first question we got was, do we have to play Davion Mitchell? He's the chalk. Is that the best way of being contrarian? And I said something to the extent of it's the best way of being contrarian, but it doesn't mean that that's the best play for the slate. And I still feel like that was true. Davion Mitchell was in a great spot last night, and I feel confident in that play still. I'll probably do it all over again. But the best way of getting contrarian was fading him and playing some of this other risky value like Chris Boucher and Isaiah Hartenstein. And that was how you took down that tournament yesterday. Darius Garland, we were on. It's so weird. He was in my player pool on the domination station, but as the news kept coming in, totally forgot about him. And so it sucks when that happens, but it's just one more lesson that you need to pay attention to the guys that you were high on originally in the slate, and don't let news completely take you off of those guys you were high on. Anthony Davis was a GPP play, made total sense. And then Clint Capella was also a value center that we discussed yesterday as well. So overall, it was definitely a crazy day, a ton of injuries, something that I really want to kind of just try to erase from memory, but there were definitely lessons to be learned from it. So still important to go about it. I told you guys not to do that. I told you guys not to play Kalolo, or however you say his name, but it is what it is. Let's move forward. We have a nice 2-game slate today, so not too much time that we'll spend on this slate, really. But I think the most important thing for me on 2-game slates is just making sure that, more so than on a normal main slate, is just that we're remembering and that we have to do something different. That's the most important thing. I just want everyone to remember. You have to do something different on this slate instead of just doing what everyone else is doing. That doesn't mean you have to get super weird and just lock in like Darius Bazley. It means that you have to take a stand of some sort. You can't just be 50% on everyone because that's what is the easiest thing to do on a slate like this. It's just be like roughly 50% on everybody, and that's just kind of the way that you're going to play the slate. And you might make a little bit of profit, you might get close to breaking even, but you're not going to be able to take down anything that way unless you're splitting with everybody else. You have to try to get different and be confident in at least one spot. All right. Let's look at the first game, which is the Golden State Warriors against the Orlando Magic. One thing that you might notice kind of right away, which is something that kind of makes these two games a little iffy, starting to get a little bit nervous thinking about it, is that we do not want to limit our player pool on this 2-game slate. The spread is too wide. And it's simply just something that if you try to get cute and take out some of these low-owned bench guys, you're going to end up taking players out of your pool who you're going to need as last lineup fillers. A guy like Mo Bamba, JaMychal Green, Kevin Looney, they're guys that we don't always absolutely love, but they're guys that you're going to need to fill in those last few spots in your lineups. So definitely don't get cute there. Let the domination station do its thing. I think there's some spots in here actually that we can be over the field in, where we want to actually get our edge and get leverage, because that's how we're going to try to take down some tournaments. So getting into the matchups, we don't have a lot of injury news on this slate. I think Terrence Ross, he's questionable. That news is going to be gigantic. On small slates, every piece of injury news, even if it's a bench player who barely sees minutes, every piece of news matters. So if Terrence Ross goes down, we want to really understand or try to predict what's going to happen here. So we have basically my strategy for this Terrence Ross situation is that with Cole Anthony out, I'm already more excited to play this offense than I normally would be. And if Terrence Ross goes down, I would really, really, really be over the field on guys like Jalen Suggs, Bull, Franz Wagner. RJ Hampton would increase in popularity as well, and also just my interest in playing him would increase as from that perspective too. So the Magic would become a lot more interesting if Terrence Ross is injured, if he doesn't play today. If Terrence Ross does play today, my interest does decrease in this team. Terrence Ross is someone that we will include in our pool if he plays. He's more so a shooter, and when his shot falls, he scores well and has performances where he breaks the slate. When the shot's not falling, you fade him, and typically his shot isn't falling. But on a slate like this, we're going to keep him in the player pool, and someone that we might even want to get more leverage on, since people aren't going to have as much exposure to him on a smaller slate. And that's the thing. These projection ownerships, they're not updated, not official yet, just because it's still early in the day. But it's going to be very hard to find low-owned guys on a small slate. Even when you start to go lower at looking at guys who are going to have fringe minutes, guys like Mo Bamba at 3,500, who only see like 10 to 13 minutes, he's still going to have 15 to 20% ownership, which is crazy when you think about it. But everyone's just trying to get those 10 to 15 points. Think of it kind of like a NFL showdown where you might play the one tight end who might fall into the end zone, and that's all he does, but that's all you need him to do. So it's totally fine to take more risk on weird guys like that on a small slate. And I definitely will be. We know that Golden State, they're not a great defensive team in the paint. So guys like Wendell Carter, Paolo Banchero, those are still exciting plays and guys that I'm excited to get behind. Paolo, he has been struggling the last 2 games. He hasn't been hitting that ceiling. And for his price tag, you need Paolo to hit like that 50, 60, you want him to hit that 50, 60 ceiling range to take down a GPP. So there's definitely some risk involved with Paolo because his performance hasn't been as strong. But guys like Wendell Carter and Franz Wagner, they're definitely going to be, if not my core, close to it. Bol has some risk. Bol started last game, even though Jalen Suggs returned, and then Jalen Suggs came off the bench. We don't want to read too much into that situation. It's very possible the Magic just wanted Jalen Suggs to, slowly work his way back. Jalen Suggs played 28 minutes in that game. Ideally, he would play closer to like the lower 30s, so it's possible that they could just be working him back to that, and then Bol might not start this game. So that's something that we definitely need to keep an eye on, because if Bol's not starting, my interest in him decreases a ton. So we definitely need to keep a good eye on that situation, because it will determine this slate and what we do. Thankfully, again, it's a 2-gamer. We will get that news. We'll get the starting lineup. There won't be any surprises, and we can definitely talk about it more on the pre-lock show. The Golden State Warriors are another interesting team. There's no injury concerns for them, and there's a few guys who are popping. Klay Thompson, he's been in these really good spots, and he's really cheap. He's starting to see 30 minutes again. And so everyone's trying to buy early on him because we know he can have those lights out shooting performances. So this is definitely a ceiling spot for him and a strong play against the Magic, because the Magic suck at defense. But the popularity of Klay Thompson today is definitely making me concerned. On a 2-gamer, those are the kind of decisions that I need to make on this slate. Like, are we going to go with Klay Thompson, or is he going to be the fade? For me right now, I'm leaning towards the fade, but I'm just going to keep an eye on the ownership and go from there. Outside of that, Jordan Poole, his price is starting to come up. I think with Klay Thompson's minutes increasing, I think we're going to start to see Jordan Poole's minutes decrease slightly. Something that I'm going to try to keep an eye on and dig a little bit deeper into, but I'm not high on Jordan Poole right now. But guys like Andrew Wiggins and Steph Curry and Draymond Green, I think they have a ceiling in this spot that I definitely want to attack. Kevin Looney, perfectly priced at 4,100. He feels like your cash center play, and someone that I feel very confident in at this price tag. So he's someone that I know I'm going to have at least some exposure to on this slate, even though it's earlier in the day, just because I know it's a smash matchup and his price is great. When we go lower, these are more of your fringe plays. I expect to have exposure to JaMychal Green, James Wiseman, and Moses Moody, just because those of you who've been playing NBA DFS long enough, you know that all of these guys are guys that can smash in small performances, and with a wider spread, it's very possible that these fringe plays see more minutes. So I will have slightly more exposure to these guys than I normally do, just because of the potential for a blowout. Let's move to the next game. We have the Denver Nuggets and the Oklahoma City Thunder. We have Nikola Jokic. Everyone knows you have to love Jokic. He hasn't been dominating this season as much as we would like for him to, but he's still been performing well. Michael Porter Jr. and Jamal Murray definitely have been eating into his usage to some extent, but his price is starting to decrease slightly. I think on this slate, it just kind of had to. So Jokic, he can definitely get the 80 points that we need him to in this matchup against OKC. They have absolutely no defender that can handle him on this slate. So I'm definitely confident getting exposure, but I don't know if he's going to be the lock-in play that we need him to be on this slate. So, of course, you're going to have exposure to Nikola Jokic on a slate like this. I'm still deciding if I'm going to be under or over, though. If the ownership surpasses 50%, I'm more than likely going to be under that on him and probably try to target more of a balanced approach, just because I can definitely see that not being that popular today. SGA is another interesting case. Josh Giddey came back into the last game, and SGA had a smash performance. A lot of people moved off of SGA with Josh Giddey returning from his injury because SGA's usage does take a hit with Giddey returning. But the thing in the issue here is that for me, Josh Giddey is just slightly too cheap. 7,000 in this matchup is just something that I want to attack and one that I'm excited to be on. So for me, like this Josh Giddey, Michael Porter range, Aaron Gordon, even Lou Dort, this is where I'm more excited than SGA and Nikola Jokic. They're both in really strong positions, but this doesn't feel like a great matchup for SGA. And for Jokic, it does look like a smash matchup. It's going to be hard to afford him. So as you guys can probably tell, I'm still kind of going back and forth on it in my own head. Like, am I playing Nikola? And yeah, we'll see where we land there. It's just really going to come down to lineup construction for me. Lou Dort is your classic elite defender, and he breaks the slate when his shot's falling. He's your 3-and-D guy. I like getting exposure to Lou Dort and being over the field on him in small slates. It's just something that I've done that tends to work out more often than it doesn't. So that's what I'll be doing just because he's well priced, solid matchup. I hope this game stays close. If this game stays close, then I think Lou Dort will be a part of it. So totally fine getting exposure to him. When we move down here with the Denver Nuggets, things start to get more questionable. Bones Highland and Ish Smith are both questionable. If Bones Highland is out, my comfortability with Jamal Murray increases a ton. Jamal Murray, he finally surpassed 30 minutes, and that's why everyone's really starting to get on him, because just like Clay, everyone's trying to get on Jamal Murray and Clay early because we all know they can have smash performances. It's just really trying to find the right spot for it. For me, this isn't the best matchup for Jamal Murray, and we're still not certain he's going to see more than 30 minutes. The price tag is too cheap for a guy who's going to see 30 minutes, so I will more than likely definitely at least have exposure and probably match the field. But I don't know if this is a spot where I want to get a ton of leverage just because it hasn't been proven, and I like to see consistent minutes from these guys returning from bad injuries before I jump on board. Not a bad play, definitely a solid tournament play, but I don't think I'm going to jump on board on that risk. Bruce Brown is a shooter, and I don't hate the play on Bruce Brown or KCP. They both have had some very strong performances this year. The concern with Bruce Brown is his 16% usage rate and 0.77 DK fantasy points per minute. That's very concerning, and you definitely need more than that on a 2-gamer when there are still some strong plays around his price range. So that's a concern for me when it comes to Bruce Brown. But again, like if a guy like Bones Highland goes down, the stability for guys like Jamal Murray, Bruce Brown, and KCP increases a ton. So for me to really enjoy this slate, I would love for Bones Highland to not play. But if he does play, he's also in play as some of these like fringe GPP bench guys. Outside of that, going lower, I don't have a ton of interest in like DeAndre Jordan today or Jeff Green, but I'm going to leave them in my pool because, like I said, these games have a wider spread than we like to see. So there's definitely a chance that this game could blow out, and then a guy like DeAndre Jordan might see a few more minutes with Jokic not being out there. Jeff Green might see a few more minutes with starters sitting earlier. And we saw that yesterday with the Raptors players not even playing in the fourth quarter. The Raptors starters not playing in the fourth quarter. So you definitely want exposure to some of these guys once again. So once again, guys, it's a short slate. On the pre-lock show, we'll definitely dig a lot more into who we're going to get leverage on, who we're going to increase our exposure to, who we want to be under the field on. I think we definitely need to have a strong take on where we're going to be under, and we'll be able to base that. For me, I will be basing that primarily around ownership. because we already know the really strong plays are going to be on the Nuggets side and the Golden State Warriors side. Those are going to be the guys that are really going to dominate the other team. On the other side, you're really hoping for someone that can just keep up. But all right, guys, I really appreciate all of you. Thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to like, subscribe. Let me know your thoughts on this slate, and feel free to comment as well. See you guys later at 5:30 on the Prelock Show. Peace.